Okay, just a quick little jump in with some progress. I've been kind of just finishing out some of these seams and stuff, and they get like kind of a low dip, obviously, when you remove material. But what I'm doing is just kind of trying to level it back out again, because I don't necessarily need to take all this section down in order to flow into those seams. But anyway, doing some handwork, I've got majority of the material that I want removed gone, but you can tell I've got this texture to it at this point. I think my lights are really messing with it, but I just use a needle scaler that I've kind of smoothed out the tips on, because when you get a brand new one, they're really, really harsh and you don't want to use that. But just a cheap Harbor Freight needle scaler works great for this. But just kind of putting that cast texture back in. I then kind of go back and then knock it down just a little bit so there's no tall points, and then that gives you that cast look again. Anyway, I was playing around with it, doing all this stuff, and I kind of started working my way out, and just for the fun of it, I did this cover, and I kind of like it. I'm sure I'm not the first person to do this, but it has definitely a more unique look. I'm so tired of polishing stuff. I hate it. I do it all the time. It is the look for, a restored engine. Obviously, when I did Tom's engine, we were working with an entire polished engine. I didn't do all of that polishing, but just dealing with it was very overwhelming. So anyway, long story short, I'm kind of not really feeling like polishing my own covers, and this might be a fun thing to try, just have that continuation of texture all the way out from, the cases themselves into the covers. It would look kind of unique with, if I did all three of them. But I'm going to put some better light on this for you so you can kind of see. I've only gone a little ways, it goes back to just being smooth down here, but I don't know how well this is going to show up, but it's kind of a unique look. It might be kind of cool, so I'm going to keep working at it, look at it for a little bit longer, and that'll help me make my decision. But I got some questions about gasket surfaces. I know I kept talking about doing like the case matching and stuff. That was purely aesthetic. It was just to get the seams all, smoothed out, lined up, just for looks. That's just my personal thing. It's not improving anything at all. On the improvement side, though, the surfaces where the cover's made up, having a good sealing surface. Everybody always mocks, British bikes. I mean, it's with everything, with, leaking. But in order to kind of combat that, there's a few different things. The first thing you want to do is look at all of your surfaces and see if anybody was using a screwdriver or a chisel or anything like that to pry the covers apart or scrape gasket surfaces. I don't know if I talked about that before, but do not use aggressive razor blades. Don't use sharpened chisels. I recommend super scrapers. That's what I like to use. You can't really mess anything up with a super scraper, but you can use a razor blade if you have the finesse to do it. So just keep that in mind. As far as our cases here go, the only real damage we've got is on the base gasket surface along here and a little bit here. So we'll kind of address that a little bit, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. But it's not horrible. It's not as bad as it could be. I've seen some where it looks like people used an air hammer to, dress the or remove the old gasket or whatever the reasoning was. But let's just discuss these K-tabs here. This is where most oil leak issues are coming from. This seam is going to be, your biggest issue that you're going to want to kind of focus on. But if you look at it, there's no red flags. There's nothing that's like, oh, that's going to be a problem. But we also want to check it, just to make sure everything looks good. You see this lip here is going to kind of cause issue as far as this side goes, where you can only check, around that edge. And as long as it's flat, it's flat. There's nothing else you can do. There's a lot of different, conversations as far as like trying to fix these surfaces, but because of this lip, you see that in every engine case is going to have this, whether it's a BSA, a Triumph, a Norton. They always have some type of lip to kind of locate the two together. Dicam is the layout fluid, anything like that. That's what that application is for. But otherwise, you can just get a red Sharpie that works just the same. So I'll kind of set up and do one for you. So once you've kind of got the area that you want to work on all marked out, this is the easiest way. This is like just a parallel I have. This is flat. I know it's flat. I know we're good. It's got some weight to it, which will also kind of help me not go overboard. Again, this is the way to do it at home. A surface plate would be ideal, but not everybody has one of those. They're kind of pricey. This is just kind of a DIY way of doing this. I've walked people through this on the phone every once in a while, just kind of, if you're having issue, you notice that there is some damage, somebody's been prying on it, good way to just kind of check and make sure everything's nice and smooth, nothing's going to get in your way when you go to torque these cases down and get a good seal on it. So take your flat surface, like I said, this is just a parallel, and then I've got some 1000 grit. Actually, this might be 800, but 800, 1000, somewhere up high. You don't want anything anywhere near those lower, coarser grits. But take this, and then you're just going to kind of like find big areas. I'm going to come across this whole section here and just let the weight of the parallel, in this case, do the work. If you're using something else, just don't drive into it. You don't want to make the problem worse. But you can already kind of see where we're touching. We got good contact here, here, and here, and not so much. You've got kind of an edge all along there that's taller than the rest. Hopefully you can kind of see this, but as you work your way around, you're going to kind of find it has a good, you can hear how it's got good contact. We're really having a nice positive touch off, and then you can hear that high spot. I'm bouncing off of a high spot, so just kind of slowly, knock that down. Again, it's that edge. Probably has something to do with me beating it up with a needle scaler too, but just really work your way through all the different sections and just try and contact as much of it as possible, because if you're just trying to do like a narrow section, you're going to fall, and have different, angles on it, and you don't want that. You're trying to create this very smooth, soft, flat surface. And matching it to itself is about the best way you can do it. If you had a mill or something and you go to put this in, and this goes for every surface, if you try and fly cut something, you're cutting it off the highest point, which may seem like a good idea at the time, but these cases get so manipulated once you start torquing stuff, and once you start putting all these fasteners in and you know, bolting everything together, everything's going to get twisted and pulled. So just having a flat surface is about as good as it gets as far as, you know, creating a good solid seal. You know, removing any damage, removing any high spots, removing anywhere that hot oil can kind of sneak its way through once it gets to that thin point that it's going to get down to. So you know, that's why I just match everything to itself, because that's the safest game you can play. You know, if you try and start removing material, it's just going to cause you more problems in the end. So the same kind of goes with the head. I get a lot of, we'll talk about that later, but same with that. I don't fly cut heads. People always ask me if I'll do that, but there's a lot of problems with that, and I'll walk through it when we do the head. But just, you know, if that question comes up, that's the answer. Same rules apply on this side. Now you've got the added difficulty with this lip here, and so with that, you're just going to do that same thing, kind of ride along that edge and find those spots, you know. And if something kind of has a little bit of a grip to it, or you can feel that resistance, you know, just slowly, don't get carried away. There should never be any sort of like real effort put into this. It's just let the material move away slowly, so you creep up on it and you don't just over jump, because then you're going to be, you know, worse off than you were before. So everything is slow, everything is simple. I was thinking, technically, I don't know. I mean, obviously, files aren't really meant for aluminum. You're going to load them up if they have like that finer kind of tooth to them. You could technically get away with using a file. You could wrap a file with 1000 grit. You know, that would be a good one too. You know, if you got a really good, decent sized file, that would work also. I'm just trying to think of more options outside of, you know, having a parallel, because maybe that's not something you have laying around. But you just want that nice, consistent flat over as much area as you can. You know, it's very easy to get carried away and dig a hole, and you don't want that. You want to cover as much surface area as you can, so then you know you're getting a good flat surface that's going to mate up nicely. Especially when it starts coming to this, you know, this is a thin edge that, you know, a lot of oil is living in here. A lot of hot oil is living in this area. So, you know, getting those mating surfaces nice and flat, give them every opportunity to seal. But like I said, there's a lot of different ways of doing this. I usually don't spend too much time on it unless there's damage, or unless the client is complaining about some leakage. I don't know the history of this engine at all, so it's worth me taking this little bit of time to check everything and make sure everything's looking good, and making sure it's nice and flat. There's no weird spots. There's no you know, hidden damages that I didn't see before. So I'm going to keep working on this, and then we're going to move on to doing like a cover or an inner trans. Let's talk about the inner and outer trans covers. These, I don't like talking in absolutes, so I'm going to be careful what I say, but I don't as often see these being a big issue for leaking. They have a ton of fasteners over a very small area, so they seem to seal well, obviously with new gaskets and good gasket sealers. But that being said, we'll just pretend like it's an issue. This side isn't so bad. Sometimes these dowels will stay you know, in the cover, or they'll stay in the case. Either way, if you want to check that surface around that area, you kind of want to remove them. If you are going to remove them, if they don't want to come out easily, you got to accept the fact that you're probably going to have to buy new ones. You can sit there and fiddle with them. I do know a couple different ways, you know, to pry them out. But in my opinion, the fastest way, again, if you plan on buying new ones, get a piece of hardware. You could use like a junky old standard. I've done that before. I've got some old pilots. I've got a bunch of different things that I'll use. But if you just take like an old case bolt, you can drop that down in there, and then take a set of vice grips and you grip onto that, and crushing the dowel to the piece of hardware, it allows you to kind of wiggle and pull it out, and now you've got a flat surface. Again, if you do that, you got to buy a new one. It's going to chew it up. It's going to give you fits down the road. Not worth, trying to play around with a chewed up, bent up dowel. Like I said, if you can pull them without that, obviously they come out nice and easy, which I have had happen. You're good to go. But even with the two that go here, one was already missing. It was probably stuck into the original cover. The other one was still here. I pulled it, which damages it, and then now you need to get a new one. You probably can't see, but regardless, not worth doing anything with. I'm gonna throw it away, throw new ones in. But I got this surface checked. I got this surface checked. We've got this surface done. We did that together. So these are all good. I kind of expected them to be good because visually looking at them, they weren't chewed up at all. But now when we come to this one, same deal. We've got another dowel, but this is our biggest problem if we're trying to do the entire surface at once. If you have a surface plate, or if you come up with your own version of a surface plate and you want to do this whole thing, our bushing for our kickstart is going to be a problem. I don't replace these unless they're damaged or super worn. It's just not really that necessary. They don't take, they obviously take all the abuse of the Kickstarter, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they need to be replaced every single time. But you can just use our trick, with a large file and some sandpaper, or if you've got a good enough sized parallel that you can get a decent surface area covered at once, you could check it that way. But I'm going to do all three of these surfaces. Also, I guess I forgot to bring it up, on this side, the same deal goes with the bushing for the shift spindle. I don't normally replace them. They very rarely are to the point where they need to be replaced. So, if you can work around them and just, if you're double checking the surface, it should be good enough. And again, I don't see these leaking as often if assembly is done correctly, if you have a good gasket, if you have good sealer. I'm sure somebody's going to leave a comment saying theirs won't stop leaking no matter what, but, you can't speak in absolutes with any of this stuff. Well, I think I'm going to stop this video here, just because it's going to go on and on and on. As far as the cases go, I still need to extract, I think, just one broken bolt, and then I'm going to go back and chase all the threads, make sure everything is clean, no debris, no residue left over from the vapor blaster. It also helps me check to make sure all the threads are good. So that'll be the next step. I'll show a little bit here and there, but again, I don't want this video to be going on and on forever. The other thing, I need to get the rocker boxes and the head prepped, and I can get those blasted so they have the same finish. I like to do an entire engine together when I vapor blast, just because the quality of the media does degrade, and so the first things you do and the last things you do over the life of the media will look different. So as far as the rocker boxes and the head go, they need to match this stuff. So I will prep those and get them blasted within the next couple days. So that'll probably be kind of the next direction we go with videos. But I just want to wrap this up here as far as the cases. So this is kind of the finish we ended up with. Again, I hope no one was coming here for restoration advice or anything like that, because that's definitely not what we're doing with this one. This is all just for fun. So went for something a little bit more unique, this stippled look on all the covers, just kind of more of a matte or satin, whatever you want to call it, finish on everything. There'll be no real polish or anything on all the components, but yeah, I'm happy with the way these cases turned out. So we will kind of move on to the next step, but this will end this video here. So yeah, I don't know, we'll see what the next one is, but I'll hopefully get it uploaded quick for you guys. Thanks.